Hi, Dale here. My friend Jason and I are going to be making a video on how to replace the oil pan gasket and the rear main oil seal on a 94 Jeep Wrangler with an inline 6. And just to state, neither one of us are certified mechanics. We're just hobbyists that are making a video to maybe help somebody out. So here's a look at my inline 6. To start, I drove the Jeep tonight just to kind of heat the oil up and get it all nice and loose. And I'm draining it right now. I'm going to leave it set overnight so that I get as much oil out as I can. The reason I'm replacing the gasket and the rear seal is I was getting a leak right at the right there up at the transmission case and between the transmission case and the oil pan there. So I'm taking off the last couple bolts here right at between the transmission and oil pan. This is right at the area where it was leaking, where that rear main seal is. So that's why I suspect that's the problem.
Yeah.
The last one. Alright. Drop this side down.
Try not to tip it.
There we go.
Yeah, look at that.
So we've got the oil pickup right there. The bottom of the dipstick. There's the oil pump right there. And you can see the camshaft up in there. And the pistons. Let's see if we can show you a piston over here. There's a piston up in there. The timing chain. I don't know if you can see the timing chain. Okay, there it is. There's your timing chain back in there. That's the bottom of your engine when you're doing the oil pan. There's some RTV in there.
Okay, we're removing the rear main bearing cap.
To get to the rear main oil seal.
So what we're doing here to break this thing loose is we're taking a wooden dowel, gently tapping with a rubber mallet. Now this is where we have to be super careful and not touch, scratch, or blink at this thing wrong up here. That's the main bearing. Alright, we're going to take the old seal out. Right now we're going to use a metal punch to try to drive that seal out. You can see, why don't you go ahead and point to it, right there, the orange right there. We need to drive that crescent shaped seal out of there. We don't want to touch any of that main bearing at all. So we are taking extreme caution not to nick, gouge, or even touch this part. You can see we've driven out the seal just a little bit, and there it comes out. We just need it out enough to grab it with some pliers, and then we're going to pull it the rest of the way through. Next, what we're going to attempt is using needle nose pliers to pull that thing out of there. We're going to put some dish soap on the outside per the manual. So we got oil right here. Okay, now I got my palm olive soap going on the outside there. We're using hints and tricks from our manual and also other things we've seen on YouTube.
So I'm going to set this on the bearing here into the channel, and then we're using that little plastic shoehorn, and then we're going to arch it around into place in a circle. Okay.
So we're going to take the shoehorn out. I'm going to try to guide this thing in. We don't want to bend it, we want to keep its natural shape going.
So we got the new seal up in there, just with a little finesse, and slid it right around in a circle into place.
Okay, so we've done a lot of research, and from what we can determine, we need to put RTV sealant in these little channels right here, this one and this one. Put the new seal in, and then put RTV on the top there and there. And then on the sides right here, it's a chamfered edge. In other words, it's an angled edge, so when you put the two metal pieces together, it creates a little V gap right there. We're going to fill that in too. The manual says don't put any on this surface because that will change the distance of where the bearing hits the end of the crank. What I've done is I've put a little RTV in this groove and then in that groove. So then the manual now calls for, this is going to fit in like that. You can see this notch right here matches. The manual calls for us to put dish soap on this side, I think, so it can slide in there. I'm going to put a very sparing amount on there because I want to put oil on this part right here at the very end. Okay, I'm going to push this into place. Alright, so I put some RTV on each edge as well. The manual specifically said don't put any on this surface right here. So I've kept it off of there.
Right.
So yeah, get them like.
Alright, so we got the bearing cap back in, and you can see just a little bit of gray RTV coming out that chamfered edge, and the little orange dot there around is the seal, and hopefully that'll hold. The bolts are torqued to 80. I'm going to get all the oil residue off the mating surface where the gasket goes. So we got our new gasket on here, and we got some RTV at these critical points where if you look at the underneath your engine, you can see where the two pieces of metal come together, and you got a little groove under there. So it's right there and right there. And then on the back side, where it meets up with the bearing cap cover. So we're gonna lift the oil pan up into place here.
There's big giant shadow. I gotta clear the starter.
So we got the oil pan in place. Now we're going to be torquing the bolts to the manufacturer's specifications. And don't forget to put the oil plug in and tighten it down. Well, we got it all put back together filled it back up with oil, and replaced the oil filter. You're changing the oil, so you may as well do the filter. It's a real good opportunity for that. When you're crawling around underneath the Jeep, be sure to wear some safety goggles when you're working on it, because you're going to get a lot of stuff falling down into your eyes. And it's been quite a few weeks since I finished. I'm real happy with how it turned out. The oil pan is nice and dry, looks really good. My leak was right up in there, and it looks like it's still really dry. So I'm happy with how it turned out. Well, good luck to you guys, and thanks for watching.